Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the pits of Motor Chaos. This is your host, Dave. I got online special guest, top nitro dragster driver, Scott Palmer. How's it going, Scott?
Going great. How's it going there?
Not bad. I'm in Illinois, so we had some pretty nice weekend. Saturday and Sunday was sunny out. Usually it rains on Memorial Day weekend over here, but it was actually nice out. Yeah. So where you at right now, Scott?
Oh, I'm sitting in the pits at the Joliet Dragster,
Oh yeah,
waiting to get parked and set up, get ready to go.
Route 66 for the Nationals.
Yeah, it's going to be a good weekend. It's going to be cool. Cars are going to be fast. That's that we came here to, you know, get a new personal best. We're trying to get a career best here. I mean, the weather's good. If you don't go up there trying to run a career best, then you're probably going to shake the tires this weekend.
So how's everything going with your new big sponsor, Magic Try?
You know, I'm lucky that it's a big deal, and it's, you know, Tommy Thompson owns the company, and he funds the deal. But basically, it's like having a sponsor that's one of your greatest friends. You know, so you know I'm in a better spot than most because my sponsor just happens to be a really good friend. So I don't even call it a sponsorship. I just say we're racing together and trying to sell some Magic Dry and Cat Spot. And, you know, Magic Dry is a great product, and it's really taken off because it sells itself. If you try it, you buy it because it works so good. So it's easy to sell if it works.
Yeah. So now, what other sponsors do you have for your dragster, Scott?
You know, I have quite a few. I have Block Ladder Apparel, which is a European company that sells basically work clothes. And I have Mark Recycling, which is a big paper, cardboard, plastic recycling company. He's a great friend of mine from Missouri, and we got a lot of them. Redline Oil. You know, there's so many on my car. Evil Knievel Museum, which next weekend at Topeka will be the Evil Knievel car, which is wild. The thing is awesome. It looks like Evil Knievel should be driving it. It's going to be great. Got an Evil Knievel, fire suit from RJS. RJS Safety Equipment. They're a big supporter of our team, and they've made me an Evil Knievel fire suit, and it's gonna be a cool deal next weekend too. So we got good weather here, and gonna have some record runs, and next weekend we're the Evil Knievel car. So life's pretty good right now.
That's awesome to hear. Now let's turn the clock back, Scott. Years back, what got you into drag racing in the first place?
When I was a kid, growing up in Oklahoma, my dad raced. He raced at Lawton, Oklahoma. Ardmore, Oklahoma, little racetracks around there, and Noble, Oklahoma. I grew up, running at Noble, Oklahoma when it opened. So my dad raced and my stepdad raced. Everybody I know raced, so I almost didn't have another choice. It was in my blood early, so I just, probably, my dad before he died asked me one time. He said, "You ever think you took this a little too far?" And I said, "Yeah, I do. I definitely took it too far." And I said that in an interview not too long ago, but that's the truth. I just kept going. I've painted cars in my garage my whole life, and I just got lucky enough. I met the right people and got the right help, and it ended up here. For some reason. So I'm just doing the best I can, trying to make everybody proud.
So what was the first class you started drag racing in?
The first class was just basically I was 14 years old, and the first car I ever raced was. Everybody's going to laugh at this, but this is the truth. My dad pulled an old Gremlin in the shop and told me if I could get it running, I could go race it. And I was 14 years old, so we cut a motor with a torch out of an old Caprice or Impala. It was a 400 small block, and somehow I stuck it in there, and I don't know. I can't even believe it would run, but we took it to the racetrack, and I think it ran 14 something, and that was my first trip down the track. And later that year, I drove a few of my dad's cars, which was a 66 Chevy, and won a few no electronics races, which back then there wasn't really electronics. It was just pretty much bracket racing, and I was 14 years old. that's what started it all, just racing. I don't do anything but racing.
So what age did you start driving dragsters?
I never even dreamed of having a dragster in my life. I was definitely not a dragster guy. I was a door car guy my whole life. And I like funny cars and door cars. So basically, I worked my way up and had an alcohol funny car, and I loved that. That was my favorite class. That and pro mods, and me and Spencer Massey were coming back from Pomona one year. We'd scraped up enough to go to Pomona, and I just saw how much where alcohol funny were going. It's so expensive to be competitive in one with so little return on the. That there's just no way I was going to be able to do that. I told him the only way I'm going to be able to keep going is get a top fuel car, and price of bodies on funny cars. If you don't have a budget, you don't need to have a funny car, because a funny car body, a fuel funny car body, is $50,000-$60,000 by the time it's mounted. So we ended up we decided we'd get a top fuel dragster, and that's what started it. We got one and didn't even know how to start it, so we just got some help and went out there, and we were one of the teams that all these big shot teams laughed at when we got out here, and then we were on a mission to prove everyone wrong that we could do it. So 15 years later, we're so hard headed, we're still out here.
And then you still keep your door car action going with your Studezilla.
Yeah, that deal's kind of a wild deal. We got carried away with it too, putting the fuel. It's a fun deal, and the goal with it, I'm going to try to run 300 miles an hour with the door car in the quarter mile. And it'll do it if it doesn't. I say this, but it'll do it if it doesn't scratch itself trying to get there. But there's a good chance it can do either one. But I'm pretty confident it'll do it, or I wouldn't have spent the time and effort to do it. A friend of mine, Mark Vollenwater, did a lot of fab work on the back end to put a 12-inch Crispin in it, and put it's got a step back blower. It has the exact same drivetrain as our top fuel dragster. The same, everything is exactly the same. So, if it gets close to the finish line, hitting on 8 cylinders, it's going to be pretty fast mile an hour down there. So that's the next goal. That's my next quest.
Now that car used to be owned by Chuck Wick.
Yeah, I'm right here in the Chicago area.
Yep. Chicago Wise guys.
Yeah, Evans did the paintwork on it, and it's still the original paintwork that he did, and that thing looks like $1 million. I mean, I talked to him last year out here, I believe, and maybe it was the year before, but he told me, he said, if you ever redo that, let me know. I said, if it goes 300, I don't really want to redo it until it goes 300, because I'm afraid it might get close to a guardrail or something before it makes it to 300. So as soon as it does that, then my plan is to take it apart and redo it, and try to get Tom Evans to redo that deal, because I love the look of the car. It fits it perfect.
Now, have you seen pictures of the car that Chuck's currently driving?
Oh, I have.
Yeah, 59 Saratoga.
Yeah, it's an awesome car. Yeah.
Yeah, he just brought it. I know he just brought it out over here at Great Lakes Dragway over the weekend, but unfortunately I wasn't able to make it because my wife's car did get some work done, so we weren't able to make it out to the trek. But yeah.
Right. And Chuck builds a lot of nice cars. I mean, before then, people ask me who built that car. Chuck Wick built it. And it's still the same. It's still the same basically the same car. The rear end and everything is it bolts in. It's a solid suspension car now because of the fuel deal and the drive shaft and stuff. But basically, it's still all there exactly like he built it. The rear section bolts into his original 4-link bracket. So the thing is still there. I've got the rear end and everything. I could take the rear end out of it and put it back to a normal Pro Mod with not much problem.
Wow.
So that just shows you how good a chassis builder he is. And he's from this area. I mean, I know he could be covered up if he wanted to, but he built such a nice car. It's amazing. And that's proof, because he built that car a long time ago, and it's still it's still a nice car. You know.
Oh yeah. So now, how do you like being known as Mister Throttle Whack?
I love it. I mean, that's I'm still a fan, so that's why we keep doing it. We took Studebaker out the other day and ran it a few times and smoked the tires. We went to the Midnight Drags in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and ran it about 2 o'clock in the morning. But we whacked the throttle on the Studebaker too, so that's pretty cool. That's probably cooler than the Dragster because that Studebaker jumps off the ground when you do it.
Yeah, it looks like you guys get like the biggest crowd in the pits when you guys fire that thing up.
Yeah, we really do. I mean, I'm surprised some more big teams haven't done it. Dom Lagana's here this weekend, and he whacked the throttle. But we're kind of like family, and we run together, and he does it, and there's a few smaller teams that do it. But I'm surprised some of the big teams, Schumacher and some of those guys haven't done it when they see the fan base that we've got by whacking the throttle, and that's what's missing in our sport is I think some people have forgot that we're all fans, and you have to have the fans to run at this level. But I'm still a fan. I just get to drive one.
Oh yeah, the throttle whacking, long smoky burnouts. The fans they miss that.
They miss that. They need long, smoky burnouts. That's next. We need fuel cells nowadays. When you get a new car, the fuel cells are so small you can't do them. But used to you didn't worry about the weight that you were adding of the fuel cell because you would burn that extra 3 or 4 gallons doing a long burnout backing up. So that's what they need. I mean, we need to remember that that's when the stands were full back then.
And of course, they all remember the dry hopping.
Yep, that's right.
So when you
Exactly right.
go ahead.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, some of the stuff was for a show. I realize we're trying to go fast, but we've whacked the throttle and tore the clutch out of it to see what it does to it and measured it. And it does nothing. It does not hurt the clutch. What we're doing, the clutch. The reason people don't do it is because the clutch machines and everything is flatter. You don't need to seat the clutch. And in fact, when everybody did it, they were doing it to seat the clutch and make sure everything was flat. Well, when it starts off flat, you don't really need to seat the clutch. But when you do seat the clutch and it's flat, it doesn't seem to hurt it at all. Because we've run 372s, 3 or 4 times, and our car runs pretty good, and we've been competitive. And I just don't believe that if we didn't whack the throttle, we'd be more competitive. I don't think that's something that's holding us back. So until someone can prove that's holding us back, I'll continue to do it.
That's awesome to hear. So now going back to when you first started driving, when you first started racing, Scott, who was inspiration to you back then?
I mean, back then when I was a kid, it's always your dad or some local racers that around around where you're from. So it's usually your dad when he races, and then as I grew up and whenever I got out of school, I moved to Southern Missouri, and once I got into I always wanted an alcohol funny car because the Stidham brothers, they lived in Chickasha, Oklahoma, which was close to me, and I didn't know them at the time, but I bought a rolling chassis of theirs and bought a body and started an alcohol funny car deal. And then once I got out there, then obviously it was Frank Manzo was everybody's hero. So if you were in alcohol classes, so I kind of went to a few. I tried to find races that he was going to, and I'd go there because I knew I was going to get beat, so I might as well get beat by the baddest dude in the world. So I didn't really know him then, but then years later, 5, 6 years ago, I got to know Frank real good. Spent 1 year working on the Pro Mod that when Belushi drove it that he was tuning, and got to spend a lot of time with him. Now he's a really good friend of mine, and actually I learned a lot doing that. So he's probably one of the most influential guys that I've got to be around.
So what was the experience like for you driving a top fuel dragster for the first time ever?
Uh, it pulled so much harder than I thought it was going to. That I at the time Corey Mack was driving, and I was making a license run, and I got out of my alcohol funny car at Topeka and got in the dragster, and he asked me how far I was going to go, and I said, I'm going to try to go to half track, you know. He said, you'll let off at 150, 200 feet. I said, nah, there's no way. My funny car ran 580s, 570s at 248 or 50, you know. And I said, no, it's not going to be that much different. It was right, about 150 feet I let off because you just can't believe they pulled that hard, you know. And that was back then. Back then it was a 480 car, you know, quarter mile. So, you know, now it's night and day difference. But, you know, you get used to it, and then once you get used to it, it's, you know, it's slow motion.
So now, after all these years, Scott, what still keeps you passionate about drag racing?
No, it's just the challenge of it. You know, you're out here running with these guys who are so good, and you just want to prove that you can do it. And my goal is not to be. I'm not out here trying to be. My my vision is not to be world champion. It's just to be a competitive car and not have to do it on any other terms. I do everything my way, which is we still have a good time. We don't we don't have to do things quite by the book like everybody else does, and that's good, sometimes it's bad, but that's the way I plan to do it. I just I've done it too long my way, and it's got me this far, so I don't plan to change. And I don't like a bunch of rules. I just think racing has turned into too much corporate stuff, and that's why I think we've lost something because we've lost all the characters and the people who are normal. You have to be a little bit corporate out here. You got Steve Torrance and us and Dom Lagana and Jeff Deal and guys like that who can still do it their way, but we've lost a little bit of that. There's not quite as many independent guys who will say what they think and not what they're supposed to say. Sometimes you say what you think, it's not what you're supposed to say, but we can still say and do what we want. We'll live with the repercussions if there are any.
So now, when do you take the dragster out? How many crew members do you have with you?
We usually have 8. I mean, we have a good group of guys to go to every race. I mean, we have a really good group of guys right now. We always have, but we have there's 3 people on the payroll, and we got 3 young guys who are on the payroll that work, and then the rest are weekend warriors. They fly in and work on the weekends.
Now, do you have any pre-race rituals or superstitions at all?
No, I've got none. I've got no superstitions. I don't do any special routine. I don't get into that. I told everybody when I left Vegas this year, I was trying to find my mojo again. So we stopped in, I don't know, Mojo Coffee in Winslow, Arizona. We stopped, anything that had anything to do with mojo. We stopped and checked it out. And Corrine Clover, Mike Clover's wife, and him, they stopped in New Orleans and got me they went to a voodoo store and got a deal that's, for your mojo, and they brought it to me at Houston, I believe, and what the deal was, you take it off, you make a necklace out of it. So I wore it for 4 races in a row now, and we've won 4 in a row first rounds, and almost won the second round the last few races actually. So I believe it helped us get the mojo back. So that's about as superstitious as I get, and I give her the credit for that because she stopped and got that for me. She's one of those that she's a spiritual lady, and she believed in that, and I put it on, and it worked. So that's about as superstitious as I get. So I think that helped me a little bit. And I think, other than that, I don't do anything the same every time, because then you get in that routine, and somebody can get in they can get in your head if they break your routine. So I don't have one. I don't have a staging routine. I don't have any kind of routine whatsoever. I just get in the car and drive it like you hate it.
All right. All right, so what goes into preparation for a weekend of drag racing for you?
We go through every nut and bolt, every part. It's nonstop. We had a weekend off that was not a weekend off. You work every day, all day, because you got to remember we race against teams that have 12 full-time crew members. The
Yeah.
12 guys at the shop can do more in 2 days than we can do in 2 weeks. So, that's what we're up against. So when we go to the shop with two or three people at the shop, we have to work, 5 times as hard to get the same amount of work done. So, it's more work for us even though we have funding, we still run it like it's a small team. We're not and I won't, I don't, we just want to do it this way. We live in southern Missouri. We have our race shops in southern Missouri, and right across the border in northern Oklahoma is Tommy's shop. So we're a Oklahoma, Missouri-based team, and it's hard to have 10 or 12 full-time guys if you want to live in our area. And we're not going to move to Indianapolis because we still like being, in our normal little town. So that's just a price we pay. Is we don't. It's just hard for us to get full-time guys that can live where we live. So we just have to work harder. We just work as hard as we can and get it done.
All right. So what are some of your favorite tracks to run on?
What was that?
What are some of your favorite tracks to race on?
Uh, everybody loves Bristol. Everybody loves Chicago. Sonoma is one of my favorite ones. I mean, Sonoma's a great racetrack. There's so many. Hey, I love Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Ozark Raceway Park, Locan. You know, those are probably my favorites, my local ones.
All
But
right. So what?
you like them all. We get to do this, so you like them all. I mean, anytime you roll in an NHRA track and get to run with these guys, it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. So now, what's been the quickest ET you've had with the Dragster?
372, 329 miles an hour. So
Yeah.
we're gonna try to beat that this weekend. It's gonna be a tough race this weekend. There's gonna be some records fall this weekend.
And what's been the quickest ET with the Studazilla?
I've only went 300 feet with it. I've made a couple 300-foot runs and a few did smoke the tires. But right now the fuel cell, we got a bigger fuel cell getting made for it. Right now the fuel cell is only 13.5 gallons. So even though I could have went further, it doesn't have enough fuel in it to go any further. So once we get that fabricated, then we'll make a few 8-mile runs, we hope, and then we'll run it to the finish line. The problem with running the full season with the Dragster is you have no time to do anything else. There's no spare time. If you have a weekend off, it's not a weekend off. You're working to get the Dragster ready. So that's my biggest obstacle with that is just finding the time to take it out, because it's like running a fuel car too. You need a full team to go run it. It's not a 2 or 3 man job now. It takes 6 or 8 people to go run it. So we had Tom Conway there. We had some guys show up and help us when we took it to Tulsa. I mean, Tom Conway's he's done it all. Has his own A-field dragster, and he's a genius. But he came out and helped us, and it's pretty cool because it's such a wild car that usually I can find people to go and run it whenever I can, but it's just me finding the time.
Yeah. So what would you consider to be the milestones of your drag racing career, Scott?
I don't really. I haven't. To be real honest, I haven't done anything that spectacular. I mean, we've run fast. We went to the final round at Phoenix last year, and we've won a few rounds, and we just need to win 4 of them in a day, and then we'll make one. The biggest milestone to me is that Studebaker. That's the coolest thing that I've ever done in my life, race-wise. And it hadn't gone down the track, but it's still one of the coolest things I've ever done myself.
So what race has been the best memory for you so far? What stands out the most?
It would have to be Phoenix going to the final round. That was once you go to the final round, you went 4 rounds. You went even though you lost in the fourth round. Now you proved to everyone, okay, we can do it. We can turn it around. We can go 4 rounds in one day, and we did. And so now it's like the dog getting in the chicken coop. Now you got that taste in your mouth. Now you want it again. So now we just need to put it all together. We've won 4 rounds in a row the last 4 races. If that had been in one day, you won the race. We just need to do all 4 of those rounds in one day.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a few fun questions here before we close out. You ready for a few fun questions, Scott?
Yeah, sure.
You have any hobbies outside of drag racing?
No hobbies.
No hobbies at all?
No, my hobby is I have no hobbies. I go to if I'm not at a racetrack, I go to a racetrack. I really I don't have a hobby. My hobby is that Studebaker. That's my golf game.
All right, so in Top Fuel Dragster racing, do you have a greatest competitor out there?
A greatest what?
Greatest competitor.
No, they're all great. I mean, they're the best. I mean, they're all competitors. I mean, they're all so tough. There's no particular one, and I couldn't even single one out. If I was in a funny car, it'd be Jeff Deal because I want to race Jeff Deal because we're buddies. And I'd like to line up beside Jeff Deal in a funny car one day. That would be cool.
Now, if you were able to do time traveling and go backwards in time, would you do anything differently with your racing career?
No, because I really couldn't. I really couldn't do anything different because I had to do it this way to get here. So I didn't have any choices, except for to work and work my way up through it. I didn't have any choice other than to do it this way. The only thing I might have done is, I might have toughed it out and got a funny car instead of a dragster. I might have. That's the only thing I can say that I would have done different if there had been a budget for it. But the only option I had at the time was a dragster because the price of the bodies would have kept me from getting a fuel car at all. So that's the only option I had. That's the only thing that I could say that I would have done different was do it with a funny car.
All right. Now, how many Wallies have you won?
I've won no Wallies. I have no Wallies. No Wallies at all.
How about
That's,
trophies, plaques, anything that you ever?
oh yeah, I have. I have a shop full of trophies and plaques from our local races and street car shootouts and when we did that in the '90s at our local track, Ozark Raceway Park, and Phil Scott owned it. Lee and Mary Balzell owned it for a while. They're street racers and grudge racers. Now they live in Lake Havasu, but I won some races back then. So, but as far as especially when you get into the pro ranks and no Wallies, that's a goal of ours because we've got so close to doing it. But when you're racing out here with these guys, there's guys who go a lifetime without winning a race, and that's not uncommon. So we're in good company there, but that doesn't overtake my life trying to win a Wally. I just want to come out here and be competitive and show them we can do it.
All right. Now, what is Scott Palmer's favorite food to eat?
What was that?
I said, what is Scott Palmer's favorite food to eat? Your favorite food?
Mexican Villa.
Mexican?
Mexican Villa in Springfield, Missouri.
Mexican Villa. All right.
Mexican Villa. Yeah, it's the best place in the world. If anybody goes through Springfield, Missouri, look up Mexican Villa. It's the best.
All right. Now, Scott, what's your favorite beverage?
Sonic Coke with extra ice.
Sonic Coke. What is Sonic Coke with extra ice?
Sonic Drive-In. Sonic Drive-In. Y'all don't have Sonic Drive-In?
Yeah, we got Sonic, the restaurant. Yeah.
Okay. You go to the Sonic Drive-In, you get a large Coke with extra ice. That's the best. That's the best beverage in the world. Other than that, it's Coors Light, of course.
All right. So, what's your favorite music to listen to?
Alice in Chains.
Ah, you're a hard rock metal guy.
Yep, Alice in Chains. Yep,
So you
big fan.
probably love '80s rock too, right?
Nah, not so. Not so much. No, no, not so much. I'm more of a Alice in Chains and Godsmack and stuff like that. But mostly Alice in Chains. That's my favorite. Some people in the pits think I play it a little too much, but that's okay. My pits.
Yep. So what's can you think of one most embarrassing moment you had on the track?
On the track, let's see. Not, I mean, knock on wood, not too many lately. But there was a time when I have done some things that probably wasn't that cool. It looked cool, made good pictures, but I blew up my street car at our local track one time. And had a pretty good fireball behind it, and it scared everybody. And that was that wasn't really embarrassing, but it was definitely odd for a street car with a blower to have a fireball like a fuel funny car. But I did it, so that was probably in 93 or 4 or 5, somewhere around there. So that was my closest embarrassing one. Oh wait, I do have an embarrassing one. I'll tell you
All
another.
right.
I put my promo together, just got it painted. I crashed it. It's on one of the Urban Hillbilly videos where I crashed it. Well, I put it back together, painted it, got it because I did custom paint. So I got it all done and I took it to the racetrack. It was about to rain. I hurried up. Me and my son loaded it. He was probably 10 years old at the time. Got it to the track, unloaded it in the staging lanes. Had a big screw blower on it. Couldn't see over anything. So instead of pull it to the starting line because it was about to rain, I started it up and I was going to drive it through the staging lanes to the water box. And I did. But you couldn't see anything on the right-hand side of you. And I hit a golf cart sitting in the staging lanes and broke my new front end. So
Wow.
I took the front end off and pulled it out there and launched it a few times anyway, and then went back and fixed the front end again and the golf cart. So, that was pretty embarrassing because I just got it done. So that was a little bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, what would you consider to be the fondest memory of your whole drag racing career?
Uh, Probably it was getting to. Really, it was working with Frank Manzo that year. I had more. I probably had. That's probably been some of the best times of my life. Although it's the hardest work you've ever done. He's probably the hardest working man in drag racing. So it was hard, but it was fun.
Now, how many years you more you plan on drag racing? You going to your like '70s, '80s, all the way up there?
Till I die.
Be like a Chris the Greek, keep going and
Yeah,
going.
the Greek gives me hope. What did Force just turn 70, didn't he, or something crazy?
Something like
What
that.
did he turn? Yeah, I think he turned 70. So yeah, I don't have any intentions of quitting ever. Just so everybody knows that. So I'll be the guy that everybody in the stage lanes is saying he's too old. He needs to get out of the scene. But I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I'll flip them all off. I'll shoot them the bird, and they can go do whatever they want. I'll tell them to go get their own car. But there'll be a time where somebody else. I might have a top fuel car, somebody else drive it or whatever. But I don't know. It'd be a while. You know, I don't even think about that. But as far as the Studebaker, no way. I'll be driving that till there's nothing left of it.
I know. How important do you think it is for kids to watch drag racing in this day and age?
Well, I think it saved me. I think it would some more if we get more kids involved in it and get them interested in the sport where they can go out and do it. And I think it keeps people out of trouble. I think we need more kids involved in it. We need more fans. We need that's one thing that we're missing right now is I think we've lost touch of the fact that you got to have kids take your place someday. Even though I don't plan on quitting, you're going to quit someday. You're not going to be here. So nobody takes your place, then the sport's gone.
Yep. Got to make drag racing great again, man.
That's right. Wes Bucket's trying his best, and he's making part of that happen for sure. And I'm trying to do my part.
Just like we got our president trying to make America great again, you guys got to make drag racing great again.
That's right. We're doing our best. I mean, I think everybody needs to fly the flag and do something for a fan. You know, that's what they need to do.
Only
It'll
thing
take
wrong.
care of itself if you take care of the fans. The sport will take care of itself if you take care of the fans. If you don't, it's not going to.
Now the other part though about America, only thing wrong with that, we got a president who's doing everything great for this, but we got our Democrat Party that keeps knocking him down when he's doing good stuff.
Oh yeah, that's the way it's always going to be, and you're never going to win a political conversation with anyone. So I don't
Yeah.
even get into that. Everybody needs to take care of themselves and do the right thing, and quit being dumbasses.
Yeah, one thing I noticed about drag racing though is most of the drag racing community all support President Trump.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I don't really, I don't get too deep into any conversations with them about it, but you see a lot of that out here, and right now we need more money in the sport. So I don't care who gets the money out here. Just tell them to get on it and get it going.
Yeah. So if people want to follow you with the Dragster or the Studazilla, what's the best way for people to follow you, see where you're going to be going?
You can go. We actually have You can go to our website, which is scottpalmerracing.com, or you can go to Scott Palmer Racing Facebook, Magic Dry Racing. There's a few places to go. You can Google Magic Dry Racing or Magic Dry US, and it'll get you to some information. And there's 2 or 3 ways to follow us right now. So there's Twitter, it's SPR Top Fuel, or no, that's Instagram. So there's a few. If you just look at one of those, it'll take you other places to follow us. But usually Facebook or the website. I know a lot of people don't use websites anymore. We got a great website, so it's got all our merchandise and the Studebaker shirts on it, and there's a lot of cool stuff on there. We got a deal with Evel Knievel next weekend at Topeka. We've got Evel Knievel apparel on there, and it's all a legitimate deal with the Evel Knievel Museum and the Knievel family, and so it's a pretty cool deal that's going to happen next weekend.
Awesome. Well, Scott, any final words or thank yous you want to do before we close?
I want to tell everybody to get out here and fill these stands up in Chicago. There's a lot of seats out here, and it'd be nice to see them full. Come by the pit, say hi, and it's going to be a good weekend. It's going to be fast. We're gonna try to run a career best here. So come on out. Let's go racing.
Awesome. Well, Scott, I wish you the best of luck with this weekend in Joliet.
Okay, thank you a lot. Thanks for having me.
You have a great rest of the season too. I wish you best of luck with the rest of the whole season.
Okay, thanks a lot, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks, Scott.
Okay, bye.
Bye.